I'm Jimmy Shane, and you're watching H1 Unlimited on YouTube.
America's bicentennial was observed on the 1976 Unlimited hydroplane circuit as many communities included patriotic observations in their annual festivities, of which hydroplane racing had become a traditional part. 17 boats attempted qualification. 2 failed to make it into at least one event. The 9-race season opened once again with the Champion Sparkplug Regatta in Miami in late May and closed with the Jack-in-the-Box Regatta in mid-September on San Diego's Mission Bay. Also in May, the President's Cup was held in the nation's capital. The month of June saw the APBA Gold Cup held in Detroit, while in July, the Fleet campaigned for the Indiana and Kentucky Governor's Cup events and the Dayton Hydro Globe. The Tri-Cities Columbia Cup and Seattle Seafair Trophy race took place back-to-back on weekends in early August. Bill Muncey's new Atlas Van Lines team wore the number 76 to capture the spirit of the bicentennial, and to no one's surprise, captured the national championship as well. Muncey was fastest qualifier at 6 events and raced to 5 victories: Miami, Madison, Owensboro, Dayton, and Tri-Cities. Muncey, with the expertise and counsel of crew chief Jim Lucero, was easily the driver to beat on every race course. After acclimating to the former pay-and-pack hull, Muncey was seldom defeated. Runner-up in the 1976 points chase was the impressive Miss U.S. driven by Tom Deeth. The highlight of the year for Deeth and owner George Simon was a victory in the Gold Cup on home waters in Detroit. Deeth throttled the Turbo Allison-powered 6th Miss U.S. to claim the coveted trophy, capping a great 23-year career for Simon. The win came at the expense of Bill Muncey, whose Atlas Van Lines was held off in one of the closest fought battles in Gold Cup history. Billy Shoemaker's ride changed names and color schemes for 1976, but the boat continued to be a strong competitor. Leslie Rosenberg's former Wise Fields, prepared by crew chief Jerry Zuvich and an experienced crew, was renamed Olympia Beer. Aboard the U-74, Shoemaker won the President's Cup and the Jack-in-the-Box Regatta. In between, the boat posted a 2nd, a 3rd, 2 fourths, and a 5th, as well as 2 sixths. The Olympia Beer was in the thick of the hunt for the Gold Cup when the boat nearly stuffed, blowing the right sponson off. Somehow Shoemaker was able to keep the damaged craft right side up, but that was it for the day.
Big rollers, I guess it's because the wind's blowing against the current.
Did you come out of your seat?
No. No, the sponson went away.
With the right one?
Yeah. I tried to ease it back around to make a turn, and as soon as I did that, it dove in. I hit that at about 130 is all. If I'd have been going 170, it would have been very severe.
Overall, the Olympia Beer was 3rd best for the year. The driver Shoemaker amassed sufficient points to edge out Deeth for 2nd place in driver's points. Bernie Little's Miss Budweiser remained a competitive factor, but entered the winner's circle only once in 1976. The season got off to a slow start and went from bad to worse when the boat crashed in Detroit while leading in the final Gold Cup heat.
Now they come down to that dangerous first turn. Muncey looks like he wants it wide. Ollie Benz is going to try that dangerous corner in tight. He bounces. Lays out in front now. But Budweiser just stuffed his nose, and I believe the driver is out. Look for the flares. The flares are out. The red flag. The race is stopped. The drivers will return to the pit. Rescue crews are jumping into the water. Helicopter moves in now.
The accident sent Howie Benz to the hospital and the Miss Budweiser back to Seattle for repairs. Bernie Little hired Pete LaRock's U-95 to fill in as the Budweiser for 3 races. When the repaired Miss Budweiser reappeared at the Columbia Cup in Tri-Cities with Mickey Riemann at the wheel, she promptly sank again. Scrappy crew made a dramatic late-season comeback on Seattle's Lake Washington, and Mickey Riemann guided the Miss Budweiser to a convincing win after setting the top qualifying mark. The Budweiser came on strong late in the season with Mickey Riemann driving in relief. Following the Seattle Seafair win, the Budweiser finished the year with a solid 2nd in San Diego. Overall, Riemann's efforts and a few borrowed points positioned the Budweiser team in overall 4th place in the national points. The Miss Madison Racing program campaigned for part of the year as Miss Linwood. Ron Snyder handled the driving as the boat appeared at 8 of the 9 events on the circuit. Snyder drove the Turbo Allison-powered boat to 5th place in the national point standings. Owner Pete LaRocque campaigned his Sunny Jim, the 6th boat to race under this name, to 6th overall in national points, with Tom Sheehy, Tom Martin, and Johnny Sanders doing some of the driving. Several boats made sporadic appearances worthy of mention in 1976. Jerry Bangs was picked to drive a new cab-over Les Stodico creation, the second Miss Verners. The boat showed promise with its best finish a 4th in Madison. Milner Irvin, Roger DeEath, and Bill Munsey logged seat time in Gene Benning's U7, which ran unsponsored for a few events before picking up the backing of Mers Sheet Metal in Detroit. The boat raced in the Northwest as Ms. Everett. The perennial Northwest crop of boats made the usual 2 or 3 annual appearances, filling out the fields in Seattle and Tri-Cities. But Doug McIntosh took his U-66 Vagabond with Bob Miller driving to the Kentucky Governor's Cup in Dayton, where the boat was called Boothead's Luau. Out west, the craft again became Vagabond and later Miss Management and Business Seminar. Season also rans included Miss Vans PX with Jack Schaefer Jr., Oh Boy Oberto with owner-driver Bill Worster. The Spirit of Dayton Walther, driven at the Hydro Globe by Dave Walther. Columbia Clipper, also known as R. Mikowski Advertising, with Terry Turner doing the driving. And a strange little boat called the Miss O'Neill and Knudsen, which made an unceremonious debut in San Diego with Chuck King as the driver. A young lad by the name of Chip Hanauer was introduced as Tad Dean's driver in the Seattle Seafair, driving the aged Barney Armstrong's machine. The 18-year-old Hanauer showed a rare skill at the starting line that immediately impressed fans. Many predicted that one day this young driver could be one of the good ones. High tribute for a rookie whose boat was overtaken each time in the first turn, though he hit the line with perfection.
H1 Unlimited Hydroplanes.
The world's fastest race boats.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, really flying the boat. It doesn't get any better than that. They are going to be side by side. This is for the checkered flag. Good morning, race fans, and welcome to the Columbia River in Tri-Cities, Washington. A very beautiful day here in southeastern Washington state. My name is Brad Luce with H1 Unlimited. I'm joined here on the start-finish line tower, as I always am, by Dustin Eccles. And Dustin, I know you're ready to go. I'm ready to go. It's the second stop on the H1 Unlimited Tour, and for the second time in a row, we're not being able to kick this thing off on time, but we're getting there.
We're getting there, yeah. I think we're chomping at the bit, and we're watching the setup crew out there just finishing up, setting some buoys, and I think we're going to be underway shortly, and the weather conditions look absolutely perfect, so that's something we have going for us.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day here in the Tri-Cities. Going to be a hot one for our fans that are with us on the shoreline. Make sure you stay hydrated. And if there's fans out there that are thinking, well, wait a minute, they always set the course on time in the Tri-Cities. How come we're waiting for them to do that? They had other responsibilities and duties this morning, as we did have some excessive grass on the race course up toward the entrance of turn number 2, and all of the rescue sleds, like you see there on the screen right now, they were dispatched up to that part of the race course, and they've been cleaning that up so we can go racing and testing and qualifying. I think we're getting ready to go. I heard maybe within an hour, and might even be quicker, and that was about 15 minutes ago, so I think we're getting close.
Yeah, we're getting really close. You can tell that everyone's kind of put an extra hop in their step, and you know, the small stuff coming down the river, it's something you always deal with these river races, but the crew over here does a great job of getting everything cleaned up, and they're working as hard as possible. I know the teams are ready. We've heard a lot of trailer firing. I mean, the pits are absolutely packed, and just everyone's ready to go. So I just saw the exit pin get set there in the far turn number 2, and a couple of the orange buoys coming down. We're getting close.
We are getting close, and you talked about activity down in the pit area at the drivers' meeting. You were there, so was I this morning. They've got over 40 hydroplanes, and I think the term is shoehorned into that pit area. It is full down there.
Yeah, it's absolutely packed. I mean, yesterday when I was in here, I was watching some of the boats get set, and then you'd see another boat show up that, you know, wasn't here when they were setting originally. They'd have to pull boats back out and then restack them in there. But it's like a big set of Jenga, and everyone did a great job of getting everything set in there. And the teams were working early this morning. And you and I were here early, and they were already down there getting everything ready to go. So it's going to be an action-packed weekend.
It should be an action-packed weekend. It usually is here in the Tri-Cities. And we're going to talk about this race course because I know you know it well, and we'll talk about the nuances of this race course. But first, we're talking about 40 boats in the pit area, but we got 9 of them with U numbers on them. There are 9 H1 Unlimited hydroplanes down there. That'll be our biggest field, certainly, of the year, we expect. We may have the same number next week in Seattle, but for right now, we got 9 boats. We got a couple new faces showing up in the pit area, and they're not really new. They're just really familiar, but we didn't see them in Madison. That would be the U21 with Gunnar O'Farrell and the U12 Graham Trucking, Jeff Bernard.
Yeah, you know, a couple very familiar faces. Gunnar knows this course very well, and you know, Jeff Bernard has more time on this course than a lot of the other drivers here. So definitely some familiar faces, and both of those boats are very capable of turning some fast speeds. I know Jeff Bernard worked really hard in the offseason with his group, getting that boat you know, basically rebuilt. They had it upside down for a long time and did a lot of changes on it, and he's really anxious. They weren't over here for testing, and he really wants to get that boat on the water today so he can see if those changes actually work. So he's probably one of the most anxious people down in the pits today.
Yeah, I spoke with him yesterday as well and talked to crew chief Tom Anderson. And as you said, and you know this, you've been there and done that, you do all that work during the off season. You can't wait to get it in the water and see how it works.
Yeah, exactly. You have a theory on everything, and until you go out there and prove that theory, it's all just a big unknown. So he's going to want to get a lot of laps under his belt this weekend with that new setup. They have a whole bunch of different things that they want to try. You know, some boat repairs, some changes, and some updates, and they're hoping that that thing is not just a filler this weekend. It's going to be an absolute contender.
We've got a big history and a very storied history here with H1 Unlimited races on the Columbia River, and it's been the Atomic Cup, the Columbia Cup, now it's the Apollo Cup, the Apollo Columbia Cup. Lots of names, but it always brings out the best in our race teams. Everybody loves this race.
They do. You know, a lot of the teams are from the West Coast, and so it's almost like a homecoming for them. And what a fast race course. I mean, this thing is an absolute – I mean, it's a super speedway. You've said it before, and it is very true. But the history here, and people call it Hydrotown, and it's Hydrotown for a reason. You get into town on Thursday, and you feel it. You feel the love. The stores, all the local grocery stores have the displays set up for hydroplanes, and you definitely feel like this is the weekend for hydroplane racing. It's pretty cool.
I made a comment last night when we walked into the restaurant for dinner, and we walked over to our table and sat down, and I said to the people I was with, I said, I think I saw more people I knew in the restaurant than I did on my 45 minutes in the pit area yesterday. It is Hydrotown, and they point toward this weekend all year long.
Yeah. We were speaking with one of the waitresses last night at a restaurant we went to, and she said, let me guess, you're here for the hydroplane races. And we said, absolutely. And she says, you and about half the people in here. She says, I look forward to this weekend, all year long. So it's great. It's great to see this many people come into the community, fill up all the hotels and just come out and enjoy the river together. You can look around and see everyone just having a great time.
It is a long-standing tradition that got started in 1966. So 60 years we've been doing this, and save the COVID year in 2020 when we didn't have boats on the water, we've had unlimited hydroplane racing on this body of water, basically in this exact same location for a long, long time.
Yeah, pretty incredible. All the great memories that have been made here over the years, and some of my first memories, I've spoke to you before in the past about it, of coming here. And before I was even old enough to come down to the races, hearing the boats from my grandparents' house miles away, and wanting to be able to come down and watch the races. But, for a lot of us, this is, a big point in the summer that we always remember is this weekend, Tri-Cities weekend. It's just fantastic.
I remember having family members a number of years ago calling and saying they'd never seen a boat race, and they said, well, we want to come see one. Which one do we go to? And I said, come here. Come to the Tri-Cities. I didn't live here then. I was over on the other side, born and raised in the Seattle area, but I said, now come join us in the Tri-Cities. It's special.
Definitely is. Yeah, you feel like I said, the community coming together and just the people. You see all the blankets set up and you make your way down to the water to watch, and you think, well, somebody's got their tarp here. I don't want to get in their way, and they say, hey, come on in. This is a great spot to watch. Come on in and get close to the river, and you get the nice breeze off the cool water, and it's just great. Everybody's in a good mood, enjoying some summer activities and a great show hopefully here soon.
And we've got some new sponsors showing up on some of our boats this weekend. The fans are going to go, boy, they're a pretty good sized mouthful. And you and I have been working to try and remember some of this and make sure we get it. But we talked earlier about Gunnar O'Farrell. And, of course, he ran here last year with the Spirit of America. A slight change to that. It's now the Spirit of 76. But a familiar name to hydroplane racing fans. They also have Beacon Plumbing on board, and they are also supporting the Ronald McDonald House. So Beacon Plumbing presents Ronald McDonald House, the Spirit of 76, Gunnar O'Farrell. Couple of big and important names with Ronald McDonald and Beacon Plumbing and Bill Cahill.
Yeah, what a great group to represent those guys, too. I mean, they have a great team under them, and they work with so many different other race teams to put that program together. It's cool to see some charities come on board and also some big names come on board to support them. So that's a great team to get involved with, and I'm excited to see what Gunnar can do out here. That's a great boat, one of the newer boats on the circuit, and they got some good equipment underneath them, and I think that's going to be a good one to watch.
Specifically with regards to the Ronald McDonald House, I am of the understanding that there are currently in Western Washington 105 children that are currently staying at the Ronald McDonald House. every one of those children has their first name signed on that U21. Beacon Plumbing presents Ronald McDonald House. Pretty cool for the kids.
Very, very cool. Yeah, that's definitely one that you can root for. You know, if you want a crowd favorite, Gunnar and that whole group, that's going to be one. To see this kid's name on the boat while it's out here racing, pretty darn cool.
And last year we had the Beacon Plumbing and the Beacon Electric sponsoring boats by Strong Racing and Darrell Strong's livery. That name is back on those boats as well. We've got the Maverick and the Tahoe Miss, but now it is the Maverick and the Tahoe Miss, both presented by Beacon Plumbing.
That is a mouthful, but it's great to see the Beacon name back on those boats. And, you know, I think Mr. Cahill just knows how cool this sport is and how many fans, you know, on the shoreline, you know, support his company and just wants to come out here and get his name back out there again. It's great to see. And I know the Strong boats are great to represent him.
And Bill Cahill is just a wonderful individual. I know you know him better than I do. I've had an opportunity to spend some time with him. He is a pillar in the community on the west side of the state and in the Seattle area.
Absolutely. Yeah, he is involved with so many different activities and events that go on. You know, whether you see his name on it or not, he's definitely involved with so many things. It's just great to see him back out here on a few different boats. You know, that's pretty cool.
It is very cool. And now that we've kind of started with those three boats that we talked about, let's take a look at the rest of our field. We've got the U1, of course, BWR Racing driver Andrew Tate. And that, of course, is Bruce Ratchford's boat. It's a quick one. We saw it running awfully well on the Ohio River in Madison and came up just short of picking off a Gold Cup.
Yeah, you know, Andrew Tate, he knows he's got one of the best boats in the field out here, and I think he was really kicking himself. You know, he can't be down on himself because this field is so tight, so competitive. He has nothing to hang his head about. But that final heat was absolutely brutal. And after the heat, you know, I went down and had a couple words with him, and he just looked so dejected. And I said, man, you can't beat yourself up. You had a great weekend. He said, I know, but I would have done a few things different. I wish I could have changed a few things there. And he is hungry for this weekend.
Yeah, I think he is too. And remember, the Gold Cup was last weekend, or the last race we had in Madison, Indiana. But last year that Gold Cup was here, and he did not have a good day. Andrew Tate, he didn't make the front row in the final. So, yeah, I think he is focused like a laser on doing well here this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. He's as focused as I've ever seen him, and usually he's joking around. And today, when I saw him, he was laser focused. So that's going to be one to keep an eye on.
Wow. And how about the U6? Madison Racing is here. Goodman Real Estate presents the Royer Corporation, Royer Miss Madison. How good is it to have them out on the West Coast?
Oh, it's so great. And, you know, the team looks so happy to be here. A lot of these guys in the heat were, you could tell yesterday they were wore out, set all the boats up. They worked all day, all night, getting these things set up. The Madison guys, they said, what heat? This is not this isn't hot at all, you know. So those guys are just so glad to be here, and that boat's fast. You know, that's the old T3 Miss Budweiser. Brandon, he's one of the best young shoes out there, and that's another one. You want to talk about a dark horse, something very positive could happen. They're saying they just want to start and finish, get into the final. That's a great way to look at it. They're sort of limited on equipment, but that thing is fast. If they can save it for the final, get in there on the front row, look out.
And I'm going to confirm what I believe is true. Maybe you have already done it, but we've got to get with our chief referee, Jonathan Abbott, because I think young Brendan Kennedy is fully qualified now. I think he's going to be able to go where he wants.
As far as I was told, yes, he's going to be able to start where he wants, make a good start. I don't think he's going to put the boat in any crazy situations. You know, he's a very smart driver, but yeah, he's going to be able to start coming up with some strategies with this new procedure.
I think it's great. Another boat and these guys had a tough weekend, probably a tougher weekend than anybody in Madison, Indiana. That's the U11, the Miss FLAV-R-PAC, the Unlimited Racing Group, boat owned by Scott and Shannon Rainey out of Cle Elum, Washington. They are very anxious to come out here and have a better showing.
Yeah, they had a great boat. They had some great lap speeds. Just they couldn't get it all together, you know, to have a good outcome. And I think, you know, Scott and Shannon are very focused here. They want to have a good showing for FLAV-R-PAC. But, you know, a lot of the local employees and everyone from FLAV-R-PAC are out here rooting them on. And they want to show what that boat can do. And unfortunately, like I said, flashes of brilliance, but they couldn't put it together. He knows this course better than any crew chief out here, so they're going to be plenty fast. And I've been watching that boat, and the handling has gotten better and better. Jamie's getting more comfortable in it, so they're going to be fast.
And I think our fans are having an opportunity to see on the screen there some of the grasses and some of the weeds and grasses that have come down the river. I'm not sure when exactly that footage was taken, but you get some sort of an idea there with the boat there in the foreground to get some scale to it. That's a big area, and there was a shot there that showed the buoys off to one side of the screen, and yeah, it's definitely in like lane 2 or 3 and out.
The good thing is, well, and I could be wrong here. It's kind of hard to tell, but I was thinking that the race course itself might be mostly clear, but they're not gonna cut any corners here. They're gonna make sure that it's good, safe, raceable water. And we've had issues here before where we've had to change the course dimensions, and we've moved it around to make sure there was enough water depth. There's more than just what you're seeing in the water right now that dictates a safe race course. It's also making sure the water is deep enough. And unfortunately, if there is an accident, the boats don't just stay on the water. They do go underwater for a second. So you want to make sure the driver can get out of the boat okay. You want to make sure rescue can get to the underside and get them out that way. And it's all about safety. So that's what the teams are working on right now, making sure it's a good, safe race course.
Yeah, they changed this race course a couple of years ago. It used to be symmetrical. It's still 2.5 miles around, but they made the lower corner, turn 1 down by the Blue Bridge, for those of you who know the layout here. They made that corner a little bit wider, and they made it narrower up at the west end, the top end up to our left. They made that a little narrower, and it was because of that depth of water that you were talking about.
Yeah, when that whole thing happened, I thought, oh no, we lost the 2.5 mile race course in Tri-Cities, and that would be absolutely devastating. But I think, some of the course designers and Russ Dodge and everybody came back and said, wait, there's enough water out here. We can make this happen. We just need to stretch this and move this and make this all work. And they did a great job. You talk to the drivers now, and they said, I kind of prefer turn 1 being a little bit wider like that because of how rough it gets. So it actually makes it a faster race course. And, I don't think you'll see anybody here complain about it.
So I want to go back to our field and talk about one more piece to the U11 Unlimited Racing Group and the Miss FLAV-R-PAC. They also have some signage on their boat. They are supporting this weekend, again, the Ronald McDonald House of Western Washington and Alaska. So Ronald McDonald House, we're seeing their name pop up a few places, more than just 1 or 2. So good for them. Also in our field, we talked a little bit earlier about the U12, the Graham Trucking and Jeff Bernard, a boat that we haven't seen yet on the water this year, but a boat that we know is fast. They've done an awful lot of work on it. And for our fans that will remember, they ran here in the Tri-Cities a year ago, did okay on Saturday, threw a propeller on Sunday morning. That was the end of their weekend. Went to Seattle, and on Saturday had 2 preliminary heat victories. And Jeff knows his way around a race course.
Yeah, he's one of the best drivers out here, and you put him in a good competitive boat, and look out, he'll be in the front of the pack. And that boat is a proven winner. They just, again, they got to put all the parts and pieces together. They don't run the boat as often as some of these other guys, so they don't have quite the data that some of these other teams are getting week in and week out. But Jeff's a smart guy, great feedback, and they've got some good equipment. So if they can put it all together, they're going to be fast.
And the next boat on our list is one that had us all just shaking our head about 3 weeks ago, the U-27, the Miss Apollo, owned by BWR Racing, Bruce Ratchford, the second boat out of that stable. And 3 weeks ago, we saw the return of Jimmy Shane to the H1 Unlimited battlefield. And I don't know how you say this for hydroplane drivers, but the dude didn't miss a step.
Jimmy who?
Yeah.
No, when some people are saying, how do you think Jimmy's going to do? And there's no question how Jimmy's going to do. I was talking with Taylor Evans a little bit in the week in between, and I said, I think Jimmy drove better last race than I've seen him drive ever, and he's always been great. But he looked so cool, calm, and collected and relaxed. He didn't look stressed at all, and he says, I'm just going to do the best I can do. And there was no pressure, and look what he can do with a great, fast BWR boat underneath him and just great equipment, and he's a fantastic driver. Probably, arguably, one of the best drivers, in boat racing. And he's smart. He makes good decisions, and you watch him all weekend long. He did just enough. He had rudder flutter in one heat. He backed out of it, got a second. He saved the equipment, came back in. They made some adjustments to get it better. And you can't tell me right there that's not a fantastic boat setup.
It's amazing. Yeah, I think he's going to get loose down here as he gets into turn 1, lap number 2 here. Keep an eye on the boat there out front. You're going to see him leap out of the water right there. Man.
Yeah, when you don't see turn spray at all for that long of a section of corner, you're along for the ride. You might be steering the wheel all you want, but you're just along for the ride.
Chip Hanauer used to call that spam in a can. But you were getting a little bit of a look at it, and with our new race format that we're going to get into and talk about a lot this weekend, but we saw it in action in Madison for the first time, and I think it went pretty well. But the interesting part was we all know there's that big hole coming out of turn 1 on that race course, and the inside lane is a nightmare, and if you want to go in there, you can get bit. Well, Andrew Tate had first lane choice, and he took lane 2, and Shane, he took lane 1 with that boat, and man, did he handle it.
Yeah, somehow, you and I were watching those boats go into turn 1, and I was thinking there's no way Jimmy's going to be able to hold the pins here. There's absolutely no way. And watching that boat get through the corners, it was like a work of art. I thought, how did that happen? And the weirdest part for me was Tate actually hit a hole in lane 2 and went sailing out. And he lost, a lane or two and actually gave up a lot of ground to Jimmy. You just never know what's going to happen.
Well, I want to thank you for something, Mr. Eccles, because in Madison, I think it was probably 3 times I had a problem keeping Shane and Tate square, and you just stepped into that hole once. You still owe me 2 until I feel better, but that could easily happen. But Jimmy Shane really showed me something, and it was what Jimmy showed me is that he hasn't lost a step, but really what got me was what the capabilities are of that boat. We all know it's just oozing with potential, and the scary part is for the entire rest of the field is there's more in it.
Yeah, something that I think this weekend is going to be the great equalizer is the thing I noticed about that boat is it accelerates better than any boat that I saw that weekend. The acceleration was just absolutely incredible in corner speed. This is a top-end course. Obviously, you need corner speed. You need to get through the corners, but it's absolutely a top-end course, and we'll see. We haven't seen it up against other boats in this setup with Jimmy driving. So there's a lot that we're going to see here this weekend.
And I know we've got some video queued up that we want to show, but before, Dustin Eccles is going to holler at me if we don't get to our final boat on our list, the one you know well. It's Tennessee Orange. It's the U40. To me, this is the big dark horse this weekend.
Absolutely. And I just was talking about this being a top-end race course, and this boat is fast. Its straightaway speeds are absolutely incredible, and it's loose, it's fast. Dylan, he had a hard time in a couple spots in Madison, which it's a very challenging course. And I went up this morning, I talked to him, I said, man, you get this thing in the straightaways and look out. Nail your starts and kiss everyone goodbye. He's got great propellers, great setup, and he's a great driver.
And we know the boat is fast. We, of course, are talking about Bucket List Racing. The boat is driven by Dylan Runne. As Dustin was just alluding to, the boat is owned by Sharon and Kelly Stocklin out of Snohomish, Washington. And glad to have them here. And you're right, they had a tough time in Madison, but they showed moments of brilliance. He got through on the inside lane once and had everybody in his rearview mirror. Unfortunately, he jumped the start, and I remember you and I went back and looked. He jumped it by 1 boat length. And
yeah.
It's at that speed, that is so close.
And we talked about it. He had to take that risk. He had to push at the start because he needed a good finish to make the front row in the final. So, he chose lane 1 the time that bid him, but he had to. I don't think he had a different choice to make because he needed those points. He needed a win. So he's fresh slate this weekend. He can go out there, qualify, test, do the best he can, learn the boat some more. And like I said, I keep saying, but this thing is absolutely fast.
And I have a little book here, a bucket list racing book, which I just noticed this morning, Dustin. It's just about full. You may have to go down there and squirrel me a new book away from these guys to keep my handwritten notes in. But in my notes on the bucket list racing, I have some numbers that I think mean something to you. You're talking about this boat being quick, 171.294 miles per hour. That hot lap that you ran down in Guntersville, Alabama, that thing was screaming.
Yeah, it was, a perfect boat ride, perfect setup, perfect conditions. But the one thing, the fans on the beach, they look at these boats, they say, oh, they all look the same or whatever. They all look the same. Some of these teams are dealing with making their own parts and pieces. Kelly Stockland is one of them. He makes his own propellers. And that is the big game changer when you look at lap speeds here is Kelly Stockland's propellers and what he does with that boat. So it might look the same. A lot of stuff under the bonnet that is completely different than these other boats.
So we mentioned 40 boats, 40-plus boats in the pit area. We're still hoping to get things started here. I did have some hand signals there with our chief referee, who is now back upstairs, and he was not up on the tower. So we know for a fact nothing's going to happen when the chief referee is not in his perch. He is up there. He looked at me, and he kind of said maybe 30 minutes, so let's hope. Look at the water conditions we're staring at. Our fans can see it looking out there. It is absolutely beautiful here right now.
It's perfect. This morning it was a little windy, and I was concerned. Being a driver, you get here in the morning, and usually the first thing I look at is the flags and looking at the wind, and it was a little breezy, but it has died down, and it looks great. Looking across the river right now, looks phenomenal. And as soon as we can get the race course cleared, the rescue everyone into position, we're going to have boats in the water for some testing this morning, and it doesn't get any better.
Yeah, and as we always have at every venue, when we go to one of our events, we have a jam-packed schedule, and we're already behind the 8-ball a little bit, but they will work. There's a good look at the river there, and you're looking over toward the Pasco side. That camera angle, I believe, is from right here on the start-finish line tower up above us, Dustin. And I'm looking at the schedule. We were supposed to go live at 8 a.m. to 9:50 with testing for H1 Unlimited, and then it was boom. We were going to go with our 2.5 modifieds, their first heat of racing. Then we were going to go with our E350s a little after 10 o'clock, and then we were going to roll into Grand Prix qualifying. Now, I'm sure we're still going to do that, but it probably isn't going to happen at the times I have them on my sheet. Then we will take a break for an air show, and we've got a jam-packed afternoon coming up. Starting at 1 o'clock, our 2.5 mods have their second heat. H1 goes qualifying at 1:30 to 2:30. Our vintage boats will be on the water after that. Then at 2:45, 2.5 stock hydroplanes do their first heat. Grand Prix hydroplanes are next up with their heat 1A. Then we go 5 liters and E350s in their heat 2. 2.5 stocks again. And if I sound like there's a lot, nobody's writing this down, I wouldn't either. But we're going to go H1 qualifying again at 3:45. And maybe that's the point I wanted to make. One thing we're doing different this year is every boat, we used to have a qualifying session, and every boat got to run once, and then they had an opportunity to run a second time. Qualifying has added importance in our new race format, and so our chief referee, Jonathan Abbott, had a wonderful idea that he proposed during the off-season. It was adopted. Let's take a break between the 2 qualifying sessions and give our H1 teams and crews a little more time to make changes to the boat so they can go out and run maybe harder, because it is that important.
Yeah, it's a very smart move. I'm glad they went that direction. I don't think you'll see any teams upset with that either, because if you want, if you have problems in your first run and you say we need to change an engine and a gearbox and runner angle, whatever, you don't have time to do it all.
Right.
And so now they do, and you can see the best that boat can do in both runs. They have plenty of time to change everything, and it's great.
Let's talk a little bit about our Grand Prix hydroplanes. We mentioned Grand Prix qualifying. We got some Grand Prix racing coming up today. We got a pretty good looking field here. Talk a little bit about what you see in the field. We got some new boats, and we got some new faces, new boats, and boats coming back with new sponsors and numbers, and kick that around a little bit for us. I know you got the list there.
Yeah, no, we've got Josh Harnack driving the GP88. I think this is going to be one of for me, the most fun boats to watch. It's Bob Shellhase's old boat, and the Harnack group picked it up this year, and it is fast. This thing has won this event more times than I could ever count. And Josh is a fantastic driver. So they had it over the off season. They've done a ton of work to it. New paint job, new look, and it's great. I mean, the Mr. Jiggs team is all on board. And those are first-class guys. So that's going to be absolutely one to watch.
And it's bright yellow. You can't miss it. We are being told in our ear 30 minutes. 30 minutes. So let's check the clock. I got 9:40. So that looks like 10 minutes after 10 to me.
Hey, we're getting closer every minute. We've got Chris Grant, the GP5 out here. Beautiful boat. You can't miss that one either. Very, very unique paint scheme. Bright green and blue. Dave Grant, the crew chief, they've done a great job getting this thing all together. I walked by it this morning, and they were hard at work. But that's a first-class boat. It's a Jones hull, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So it's his first time in the water this year, so he's going to be looking to put some laps under his belt and get a feel for that boat. They ran it a few times last year.
And then our good buddy Brent Hall, he's back with Cool Cat Motorsports here in the GP 235.
And he has some great experience now. He's got a couple races. Madison, how cool was that? Watching him going out there and winning a heat, and he's bonding with the team. He's doing a great job, and the boat's awesome. It's handling great. They've been working on some rudder stuff, but Brent, he says, I'm comfortable. Let's go racing. So,
well, and that's a fast boat.
Very fast.
And there's going to be two of those boats. We'll talk about that when we go through it. And then our GP17, the Miss Runne, Awesome Austin is back in the cockpit this weekend.
Austin is back, and Josh Culver did a fantastic job a few weeks ago putting the boat out there, and he ran Valleyfield, Madison. Austin said, "Hey, move aside. My turn to jump back in," and they're working on some new stuff. This boat is different than every other boat out there. They're running electronic injection, electronic ignition, tons of electronics. So when this thing comes together, it's going to be crazy fast, but they're still working some bugs out. But I think this weekend's going to be their time to get it dialed in.
And then you talk about a boat that's won out here so many times you can't remember how many. How about that? The Hoppers are back. They're always here. That GP15, that low-profile, happy-go-lucky racing. Good to have them on the water.
Absolutely. Fastest top-end GP out there. And you talk about a good top-end race course is right here. Greg Hopp has 1 million laps. I think that's an accurate number, too, under his belt. And they're smart. They save the equipment. They'll go out there and push it just hard enough to get in the final, and people say, well, they haven't been that fast all weekend. Yeah, right. They watch for those guys. They're always fast, and that thing is it's so dependable. They do a great job. That the team is incredible.
I have to tell my favorite Greg Hopp story because it was many, many years ago. It was this particular hull, and he was going to be on the very, very far outside for the final heat. So I went down and interviewed him and asked him what the strategy was, and he says, Brad, we're going to put the biggest wheel on this thing that we've got. And he said, I'm going to go all the way up to Richland for my start, and I'm going to wind this thing up so high only dogs can hear it.
Yeah, and I bet he did just that.
He did that. He brought him down to the lower corner. He got gobbled up in a hurry, but, oh, gosh, he's a character. It wouldn't be a race if we didn't have the Hops.
No, absolutely. Great to see him here. And then John Shaw coming out in the 135, so the sister ship to the 235, Brent Hall's teammate. And this boat has the record on the mile and two-thirds course with Jeff Bernard driving, the old Bad Influence. And it's fast. John Shaw is getting a lot of seat time under his belt, and watching him last weekend at Valleyfield, his confidence levels through the roof. This has got to be one of the boats to beat right here. It's going to be incredible.
Yeah, it's a very, very fast race boat, but you can't ever count out a boat you call the Freak. You got to like that. The GP10 Kevin Ekert, he's a character, but it's a different profile on that boat. It looks good on the water, but, man, he makes it go.
He does, yeah, and that's the other Richards Racing JJR boat, and that thing, it's a totally different setup. They run both boats completely different. This is the tried and true setup, and Kevin does a great job. He's fast. He's consistently fast. He puts it in good positions, makes good starts, and it's going to be fast. We've seen this boat on this race course a bunch of times. Jimmy Shane used to drive it. Jimmy King used to drive it, and it's proven. They're making small changes, but it's getting better.
It is getting better, and you want to talk about a boat that's fast. We're rounding out our 8-boat field there with the GP35, the TM Special. Brandon Kennedy going to be doing double duty this weekend. We've seen this boat many times. Fans out here on the West Coast may not be too familiar this one, but when it goes by, you'll know who it is.
One of the fastest GPs in the country, and Brandon does a great job of driving it. I'm glad he's young, because driving both classes, the GPs and the Unlimiteds at the end of the weekend, that's got to be a pretty quiet flight home. He's going to be whooped. But this boat, they're doing more stuff with aero than any of the other GPs out here. So crazy horsepower, crazy setup. But if you walk by and actually look at this boat, they've got bull noses on the front like the Unlimiteds that are different shapes, different sizes, different placement. They're controlling this thing like an airplane. And when he comes back in, he's given feedback to make it faster and better. They're fast on a mile course. They're fast on a mile and a quarter. Let's see it on a mile and 2/3 because this thing is going to be a rocket.
It is going to be a rocket. It is a rocket. So that's our GP field. Again, you are watching H1 Unlimited's coverage of the 2026 Apollo Columbia Cup. I'm Brad Luce along with Dustin Eccles here on the start-finish line. Still got some awfully good water conditions out in front of us. I wish we could get a boat out there and churn it up a little bit.
I keep saying we're getting closer, but I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think all the buoys are set now. And I see one of the sleds going out. The sleds are scattered all over the course like they should be. So we are, we're waiting patiently just like everyone here at home. But I think we're getting pretty close.
Yeah, I know the fans are sitting there going, come on, we want to get it. Trust me. Dustin Eccles and Brad Luce are as anxious as anybody, and we're looking down at our producer. He's anxious. Everybody wants to go. Everybody's all set up and ready to go. And as soon as we get a green flag on the race course, we're going to go testing with our H1 Unlimiteds. And kind of as we were talking a little bit earlier, we know they want to get that U12 Graham trucking in the water. They may be one of the first boats out.
And one other side note really quick, they did speak at driver's meeting when you and I were listening in. They said, we know we're going to start a little bit late here because of the conditions that they have. They said, we're not concerned. We're not going to shortchange anything. We are going to run a full schedule. We will make it happen. So, the event's going to happen, and you're not going to miss anything. So just be patient.
Just be patient. It's going to come. And speaking of Jeff Bernard, I think we've got a piece we can cut to right now about Jeff Bernard where he talks a little bit about his goals driving for Graham Trucking. Let's go to that piece now.
Well, last year when I came on board, we knew that we were only running Tri-City in Seattle, so we had a bunch of time and we rebuilt pretty much the whole right side of the boat and put a new front spar in and got that all straightened out. This winter, started off the winter thinking that we were going to race a full season. So because of the amount of work it took last winter to get ready and starting late because I didn't come on the team till January, I wanted to focus on the bottom and redo that and fix some stuff that might not have gotten fixed the best way when the prop came off in Tri-Cities last year. And then once we got it upside down, we started looking at the runners and was going to straighten out the runners on the bottom of the sponsons. And we ended up changing the way the runners are on that boat, more like the U91. So we had some big changes on the bottom. We built a bunch of parts. We'll be in Tri-Cities. It'll be a different boat again, so excited to get back in it. Just wish we were racing full time. We did a lot of work to it. The boat is in really probably the best shape it's been in a long, long time. And every boat's kind of similar, but they're just so massive, and what it takes to put one together. And so a lot of drivers don't work on them. Corey and I think, are the only ones left that are actually working on them. And just what it takes to put them in the water, it's truly a neat piece of machinery. It's just so massive, and the speed. I run a lot of other classes. Run a 350 boat back east. Typically was running the last 5 years a Grand Prix and an Unlimited. So that really helped because the Grand Prix at the races, but our team sold, and so now just the 350, and anywhere it can race, go and race when there's an open boat. Last year we went into Tri-Cities at the Gold Cup and was just gonna feel it out for the weekend. Our weekend got cut short Sunday morning. Went to Seattle, and I think we showed all of our hard work paid off. We won 2 heats on Saturday. Sunday we started off with second in the final. Screwed up before the start of the heat, got a penalty, 2 penalties. So the final didn't go our way, but I think capitalizing off of what we left in Seattle, go to Tri-Cities hopefully in better shape than we did last year. We struggled even up until the prop came off with the fuel control, but And during the week of Tri-City in Seattle last year, we got that fixed, and the speed was there. So hopefully we can start off smoother in Tri-Cities this year. And but our big one's Seattle. We focused most on that, and our boat's set up really well for Seattle.
Interesting conversation there with Jeff Bernard, and don't gauge his level of excitement in the conversation about his strong belief in this boat and wanting to get it on the water. He is a very, very focused driver. This boat, he talked about it being in maybe the best shape it's been in a long, long time. If it gets anywhere near its original good shape, this is the second winningest hull. It's tied for second in the history of H1 Unlimited Racing. This particular hull, the former Budweiser, has won 26 races. If this boat's right, it flies.
Yeah, when people go back to the Budweiser days and talk about their dominance and stuff, this is one of the crown jewels of the Budweiser fleet right here in front of you. And, you know, it hasn't been, like he said, in this good a condition. They've done small fixes here, small fixes there, and they say, well, it should be good. But Jeff Bernard went through it with his team in the offseason, and they actually went through every part of it to make it as good as it's ever been. And he brought it up there. It's so important for a driver to be just so involved with the repair and the setup on these boats, because if there's an issue, he can give good feedback. He can say, I think we need to change runner angles. I think we need to change the bull noses. I think there's so many different adjustments you can make on them. And when a driver is involved with setting it up, he can give good feedback. If he just climbs in it and mashes the pedal and steers it, it's awful tough for the crew chief to make adjustments and stuff, to make this boat better. But Jeff is one of the best in the business at giving feedback, making these things go faster than they did the heat before.
And you mentioned it was a crown jewel of the Miss Budweiser fleet. To those who keep track of these sorts of things, that is and was the Budweiser T6. This was the boat that was originally built back in 2000, and it was built for the fuel restriction. This is the one they built specifically when the restricted fuel went into play. And there may be somebody out there, a new fan listening to us, going, built in 2000? We got jalopies in the garage that are older. These things are basically rebuilt every year.
Yeah, I'd be curious on a lot of these holes to see what is original, on left on there, if anything. But this is one of the boats that most of the newer boats were based off of. When teams are trying new things and figuring out the width and the lift and how everything was set up, they all looked at the T6 and said, wow, that thing really, really works with the restricted fuel. And so they've kind of based all of the boats built since then off of this one. So that's a pretty good building block to start on.
I'm looking, as you were talking, I'm looking up and down a race course here. Everything is ready to go. We're all ready to go. And, we've talked about it already this morning. The drivers are ready to go because they love this race course. I know you loved it when you raced on it. It's more than just the race course, though. You mentioned that so many of our teams are from the West Coast, and specifically about 3.5 hours to our left over in Western Washington. And we had an opportunity to sit down and talk to some of our drivers about this particular race course, the race in the Tri-Cities, and their love for this particular river and race course. Let's go to that piece now.
Tri-Cities. Definitely enjoy the Tri-Cities race. The course is amazing, big course, fast turns, everything about it is, the people are everywhere. So it's just great seeing that many fans having a good time.
Always here in Tri-Cities. I win a lot here. I've only lost once in 6 years here, and that was last year. And I jumped the gun by half a sponson, and I won by half a lap. So I would have won if I just would have 0.0001 of a second didn't jump the gun. But it's what it is.
Tri-Cities is always a fun race. The crowd, the people around here are really into racing. The river's usually pretty good here. It's a fast race course. Seattle, it's where most all the teams are from, and for almost every boat that I've driven in the past 5 rides, everybody's from Seattle. The sponsor's from Seattle, and it's Rob Graham, the owner, and his company. It's the biggest part of their summer, so it's a lot of pressure. It's to try to do good there for your sponsors, because from a sponsor standpoint and some team standpoints, Seattle's bigger than the Gold Cup. For me, I like the Gold Cup more, but it's there's a lot going on in Seattle.
I think all of them. I like all the races. There's something special about every single race, and you know, the West Coast races are always a good one because family and friends are always here, and but you know, East Coast, you know, 22 years of racing, and you meet a lot of people, and you know, a lot of familiar faces. I made a lot of good friends on the East Coast, and with fans and everybody. So I think every race is special, and whether it's Gold Cup, Seattle, Tri-Cities, San Diego, they're all pretty cool.
Back here on the tower, that was interesting to listen to the drivers talk about this race course. Certainly Corey Peabody likes it here, but, you know, forget all that for a minute. How about you? Well, you have a favorite race course?
This has got to be one of them. My best finish, I think, was here. We finished second, and it's just a good time. Like I said, the energy from the crowd here is fantastic, but the course itself is just plain fast. And if you got the boat set up right, it's a dream race course. You can, you know, the dimensions are perfect. There's not a one spot that you dread like some of the race courses. It's just a good top end, top speed course. Let's see how fast these things can go and go out there and, you know, get it done.
Dustin Eccles, we are being told in our ear that at 10 o'clock our race course is going to open for a 1-hour test session, and down there in the lower left corner of that monitor, I think our fans are seeing 9:56. I'm going to assume we've got boats hanging over the water. I think we're about ready to go.
Yeah, and this is a different perspective for me because I've never been down this far on the course. I can't see the cranes, so I keep finding myself looking down there and trying to see the boats hanging and get it all excited. But, yeah, I mean, we're just a few minutes away here, and we're looking good. Like I said, the rescue boats, from what I see, are in position. I think we're there.
Apparently, they're just waiting for confirmation of exactly that point, that our rescue sleds and all personnel are in their proper position, because we're not going to go unless they are. I see one sled coming away from the pit area all the way down to the right. You just see it there on the left side of the screen, just heading off. But I think what we're going to do right now is we're going to step away. We're not going to step away very long. Dustin and I are going to step away, catch a bottle of water, and I'm hopeful and optimistic that when we come back, we'll have H1 Unlimited hydroplanes on the Columbia River. It is the 2026 Apollo Columbia Cup. Brad Luce, along with Dustin Eccles, Danny Rogers will be along later. Don't go away. We'll be right back with H1 Unlimited testing. Tri-Cities of Washington, Brad Luce along with Dustin Eccles, and we were hoping to get boats on the water very quickly after we took that short break, and all of a sudden Dustin Eccles and I looked up and we had a boat away from the dock. We got another one away from the dock as well, and we were talking about Jeff Bernard being anxious to get out here and see the results of all the hard work on the boat. He's coming off the top end down the front straightaway. He's boat number 1.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Jeff's first guy on the race course. I knew he was chomping at the bit, but right now, right out of the box, I mean, boat's looking pretty darn good. It must feel good because he's got his foot into it early.
And we've got 1, 2, 3 boats already away. You saw a boat in the background there as Jeff went down to the bottom end of the race course. There's a boat up the backstretch that Dustin Eccles knows a few things about. Dylan Runne in the bucket list racing is ahead of Jeff. He's at the top end of the race course right now, but we'll watch Jeff Bernard in the U12, the Graham Trucking. As Dustin was just pointing out, got to feel good about the boat. He's got his foot in it. He runs smartly up the backstretch. Hey, Dustin, welcome back to the Tri-Cities. We're racing again. We got boats on the Columbia.
Oh, it doesn't get any better than this right now. The weather is perfect. The course is great. And we've got a really fast boat out there right now, and 2 other ones getting wound up.
Yeah, we've got 2 real fast boats, and there's one halfway up the backstretch, pretty darn quick too. Jimmy Shane is on the course in the 2026 APBA Gold Cup champion, U27 Miss Apollo. But we're still watching Jeff Bernard as he's the one who's running with his foot down a little bit, and he is going to encounter Dylan Runne down there at the bottom end of the race course. 146.6 for Mr. Bernard in the 12. Great looking shot from the drone there as you look at our Gold Cup champion from about 3 weeks ago on the Ohio River. He went underneath the drone. That was Jimmy Shane. Now we're back on the Graham Trucking. First lap at 146. I'm assuming we're just finding out that everything's glued together right.
Yeah, and these lap times are not going to be very accurate because you've got other boats on the race course going half speed, making rollers. They're in weird spots of the race course, so Jeff can't run the line he wants to run. The boat's not, dialed in the way he wants. So right now, he's getting the feel for it. We'll see how many things they change between now and the next time he goes out.
How's that shot as Jeff comes down the front straightaway, goes under the drone, and now back to the camera that is right here where Dustin and I are as Jeff comes across the start-finish line.
Yeah, he's definitely just getting his confidence level up. The boat looks pretty stuck right now to the water, but that's great. He's just going to make sure it's all running the way he wants.
And Jimmy found the pedal on the left as well.
Yes, he did. That thing is looking beautiful as always. We talk about how he's one of the fastest boats out here, but he doesn't have that much seat time in that boat either. So every lap he gets under his belt right here is a benefit to him.
So he's down hard to the bottom end of the race course as you watch Jimmy Shane in a boat that was brand new in 2024. And we talked about that dominating win at the 2026 APBA Gold Cup in Madison, Indiana. I'm not sure people realize just how dominant it was, but he set a course record back there. And he not only set the course record, he shattered the existing course record for a 5-lap heat in that final. It was impressive on a lot of different levels.
Yeah, pretty incredible. He was getting pushed the whole time. Andrew never fell back that far, and they didn't really know, about any penalties or anything. But a 157.585 here in testing, that's pretty hard fast.
Yeah, with rough water and other boats, and he's definitely found both of the pedals now. He's got the boat up out of the water, flying it, and he's definitely got his foot pushed in it. Dylan Runne comes off the top end of the race course.
Looks like he's going to go for a timing run here. He got into it a little bit early, got a feel for the boat. He's nice and loose off the corner. That's what you want. And he's on the down pedal there at the start-finish line. That's a good timing run for him. We'll see what he can do. So as these boats exit the corner, they'll put one foot. There's 3 pedals in them, and they use one of the pedals to bring the trailing edge of the canard, the front wing, down, and it builds lift under the boat. They get nice and light, accelerate really, really hard, and then about halfway down the straightaway, you start going the other way, making sure it stays on the water, because the faster they go, the more lift they make, and then they get too light. So Dylan's doing a great job with the 3-pedal setup.
Yeah, and I don't know, I've always kind of wondered about this a little bit. I only have 2 feet, and I know you guys do this and control these canard wings with 1 foot. You go up or down, you're handling 2 pedals. I'm assuming that's just something you pick up in all your years of racing.
It takes a while to get comfortable doing it. You know, the first few times I did it, it takes a lot of confidence to pull your foot off the pedal that makes the boat stay on the water and go the other way. So, yeah, it's definitely something you got to learn. But look at that shot. Both boats together down the front straightaway, and they are moving.
They are moving. That was Dylan Runne on the left side of the screen. Jimmy Shane on the right. You see Jimmy pull his foot there a little bit.
I would put that bucket list team up against anyone on the top end out here this weekend. And once Dylan gets the confidence under his belt, and we saw how confident he was at Madison putting it in lane 1, but once he experiences it here, I think he's going to be feeling really, really good going into the heat races.
Well, and I'm going to add the fact that he just turned that lap at $1:54, and if I remember things correctly, he was pretty much on the outside coming down here. He was on the outside of Jimmy Shane, so he's running a pretty good-sized race course. This one might be a little bit quicker, but a 1:54 last time. He's got the whole front straightaway to himself.
Oh, it's looking really, really good. He perfect line around that corner. Look at it, he's nice and light here. He's accelerating hard down the front straightaway, and he just barely lifts off the start-finish line. He's got to feel good.
Dylan Runne, U40 Bucket List Racing. It's a quick one. They had a tough weekend in Madison, looking for a good rebound here in the Tri-State. 156.006.
Brad, not to interrupt, you'll see Jimmy now. So Jimmy's on the outside. He's about lane 4 or 5 doing a timing run from out there. He's doing his homework for the rest of the weekend right now because he says, I might be on the outside. I need to see what it's going to take as he hangs it across the start-finish line. Oh, keep it down, Jimmy.
And now we have J. Michael Kelly on the race course, and the Beacon Plumbing presents Maverick. The Maverick presented by the Beacon Plumbing, J. Michael Kelly. He goes down to the lower end of the race course. I think Jimmy's going to take it back into the pit area, so now Mike's going to have the course to himself here.
And J. Michael, he knows this course. You know, he's I think he's probably the longest active driver right now, you know, the most laps out here. So J. Michael knows this race course, and he knows this boat. He's been getting better and better. They did a lot of off-season work on the engine stuff, and once they get the parts and pieces all together, J. Michael's going to be one of the ones to beat.
J. Michael's first ever race in an unlimited hydroplane was right here in the Tri-Cities in 2004. Here he comes off the top end. So you are correct. He not only knows this race course well, he likes the race course, and he does indeed. It was just confirmed in our ear. Yeah, he's got more laps on this course than anybody. So he's had some good days here. He's had some awfully tough days here.
One thing you'll notice about the boat ride that J. Michael has is it's pretty level. So you don't see the front end up, the bow up any more than the stern, but the boat is level. It comes out of the water, it flies level, it comes down level, and that's just a great setup.
And we've got the Goodman Real Estate presents Royer Miss Madison on the race course. And as I said earlier, so good to have the Madison boys out here. You're gonna watch J. Michael Kelly. He's gonna head up toward the top end of the course, and he is going to encounter Brandon Kennedy. First time Mr. Kennedy's driven an unlimited around this particular race course. He will get familiar with it. There is Brandon there on your screen on the right side. There's Kelly coming up behind him in the Maverick, presented by Beacon Plumbing.
Yeah, the 2.5-mile race course, you know, there's a long way in between these buoys, so this is great for Brandon to get some landmarks. He can kind of match up the buoys with something behind, a hillside behind, and that way he doesn't get lost in the race course, because it's easy to do. This is a unique race course. Obviously, you have the bridge in turn 1, but when you look down into turn 2, not a lot of different landmarks to set yourself up to make sure that you're on the right buoy.
Yeah, and we do our best over here not to move the mountains and so forth. Those land and the bridges, they stay where they are. Good shot there of a couple of boats going side by side. Kelly says, see you later, as he moves past Brandon Kennedy up the backstretch, looking good and sharp. Kelly turned a lap there at 153.7 miles per hour.
Beautiful turn spray. Look at that thing. Just hammers it into the corner, keeps it on the pins. He says, hey, stay on my hip, Brandon. I'll show you the fast way around the race course.
That's exactly right. J. Michael Kelly, U00 Maverick, presented by Beacon Plumbing.
You one thing that Brandon has going for him, he's done such a great job on the Madison race course, and that's arguably one of the most challenging race courses on the circuit. He's going to come out here to Tri-Cities and say, oh my goodness, this is so nice. I mean, the water is so smooth and it's nothing. So he's going to love it out here.
We've got a third boat away. You're going to U21, so that is going to be Gunnar O'Farrell. You see him getting passed there by, well, maybe not. He and Brandon are going to have a little conversation. So the boat that's running hard on the race course, at least at this moment, is our U00 Maverick, presented by Beacon Plumbing. J. Michael Kelly. He always likes to get that boat up and dance it across the water.
No, he does a great job, and so far we've seen him just in the inside lanes 1 and 2 so far. I'm kind of curious on if he's going to venture to the outside at all. With the current setup to where they know what lane they're going to be starting in, you would want to think that the teams want to know the setup that they need in lane 3, 4, and so on and so forth. So I'm suspecting that J. Michael's going to slide on out here so they can get some data to see what kind of RPMs, telemetry they can see in the outside lanes so they can get a setup dialed in.
And I want your opinion on this. We're not showing it right now on the screen, but Gunnar O'Farrell is going very slowly at the entrance to turn 2 at the top end of the race course. There you see it on the screen. Has he got a problem? Not that you're in
I think so,
with
and the reason why I think so is because he's on the outer markers right now. He's staying out of everyone's way. He's going slower than I think that he would be if he was doing a timing mark or something, but he could be. But he's on the outer markers, which is smart. If he does have an issue, maybe a throttle response issue, then he's going to stay on the outside, stay away, and if he has to shut it down, a rescue guy can grab him from the outside of the course, and he doesn't impede anybody running.
And that is the U21. The Beacon Plumbing presents the Ronald McDonald House. We'll hope that he's not having a problem. We'll keep an eye on him. Meanwhile, J. Michael Kelly just continues to turn a bunch of laps, and he pulls his foot again as he crosses start-finish. Maybe he will head back to the pit area this time. Still got Brandon Kennedy out on the water. You see him on the right side of the screen behind Mike, chasing him down the front straightaway. He, too, has pulled his foot. And we've still got Gunnar. Mighty slow at the top end.
Yeah, I have to be curious on what they're trying, or sometimes you have an engine that just does not take throttle. That might be an issue he's having. Obviously, I'm just guessing, but there are a lot of different adjustments you can do to where when you actually give the turbine throttle, it accepts it, and then the RPMs come up. Sometimes when you don't have that setup dialed in, you can be having this problem. The thing that he has to be worried about, though, is he going fast enough to get cooling off the river up through the rudder and up through the gearbox, because everything is cooled by the water in the river. So you need to be going fast enough to get that water moved up through the boat, cool everything down. So he'll have to watch his gauges pretty close.
And he's just about as far away from the pit area where he is right now as you can possibly be. And he's still basically rubbing up against the outside markers.
Yeah, it looks like he's trying pretty hard. I mean, you can look at the back end of the boat, and I mean, he's on the throttle. He's trying to get it to go. So I'm curious on that one. We'll have to find out what's going on with Gunnar.
So it's the 2026 Apollo Columbia Cup. It is day 1 of 3.
So you can hear, Brad, that popping we hear now. We couldn't hear it before, but that's compressor stalling. So basically, he's not getting enough air. Air finally clears out. Keep her going. That's something they're gonna have to get dialed in, though, because that's it's very, very hard on the engines. Also, it's basically an explosion happening behind your head, and it feels like a kid on a flight kicking in the back of your seat the whole time you're flying, and it's extremely violent, hard on the equipment. So they're gonna want to get that dialed in.
And he will take it back to the Neil F. Lamson pit area.
We got one more coming out. It looks like. I wonder if that's we haven't seen the 11 yet, and we haven't seen the 3 yet, if I'm not mistaken. Can't tell who it is.
Oh, that's Andrew.
It is Tate.
That is Andrew Tate. I noticed radio man Jimmy Gabline was downstairs, so I knew he was coming at some point. And it looks like Andrew's been able to time this such that he can have have the crick and the course all to himself.
Yeah, they're going to be trying to learn as much as they can, as fast as they can. This is one of the newest boats on the circuit, and one of the fastest. We've seen it time and time again. You put Tate behind the wheel of this thing, and he's almost unbeatable. So they're going to want to make sure that he's really confident going into these heat races, and he can put himself in a good position. Last year, he could not catch a break. Didn't matter what happened. If there was some bad luck or anything wrong happened, it happened to Andrew. And going into the final, I mean, he just didn't have a shot. He was the weekend really took him out, and so he's going to make sure this weekend that's not what happens. He's going to set himself up for a good front row final heat.
Absolutely, and this guy is just defined competitor.
Yeah, Andrew, when he used to race against this hole, and he says, wow, now that I know how good this boat is, and this Mike Hansen prepared race boat, he says, I can't believe I ever beat it, because it is just so fast. I mean, through the corners, the way this boat is different than most other boats out there, and they did some crazy stuff. Dale Van Weergen put this thing together, and he says, I have a few ideas on what's going to work. And if you talk to Andrew Tate right now, he says, you were spot on, because this thing is so much fun to drive. It's so fast through the corners, and they've got everything working in their favor. So as long as they don't have any weird bad luck stuff happen, and Andrew just drives how he drives, they're going to be just fine.
Well, I made the comment that this is just a consummate competitor. You mentioned he's got his game face on. He wanted that Gold Cup in Madison. He didn't get it. I think he's going to stay way wide. Yep, and not as wide as I thought he might go, but he's going to make a hard charge down the front straightaway here. This boat was christened here in the Tri-Cities in 2018. It's been a rocket ever since, and Andrew Tate knows it as well as anybody.
Beautiful boat ride, and I know that they've got their top end race set up in this thing, so we'll see what he can do. He's probably going to run a couple laps on the inside, a couple laps on the outside, hopefully get some timing runs from multiple lanes, I would assume, and just hopefully set themselves up for success.
Well, he was running on the outside every one of his heats in Madison earlier in the month, and he got lane selection in the final, and he took lane 2 on the Ohio River, and Jimmy had to, I'm sure, swallow a big lump in his throat and say, all right, if I'm going to beat you, I'm going to have to do it from lane 1. Took it, made it work.
Yeah, Madison, everyone can argue over what lane is the one that you want there. Here in the Tri-Cities, I don't think you're going to hear that argument. Lane 1 is really where you want to be, and the worst place to be is on the outside, because it makes this giant race course that much bigger. And so these guys really got to talk strategy and see where they want to end up, in these heat races. They want the points, but they also want the inside.
Yeah, and that is going to make it more fun, also with the fact that we've got 9 boats now versus 7. So if you are your top qualifier, you're going to get last lane choice in that first heat. And if you end up on the outside, you've now got 4 boats off to your left instead of 3. And if you don't win that heat, that's really going to shake up the seeding for heats 2, 3, and 4. We are running a Gold Cup format here this weekend. This should be really interesting, and it should possibly be our new race format at its best on display. I'm looking forward to a really, really competitive weekend.
Yeah, you and me both. I'm thinking, the 11 is so good at getting the inside lane. I don't know that I've ever seen Jamie start on the outside. I hope Scott and Shannon have a big enough fuel tank in that boat to run on the outside if they win some of these preliminary heats. But we'll see. And it looks to me like maybe Jeff Bernard is back out on the race course already. So it just solidifies the fact that we said he's going to want to keep running, and keep making small. No, that's actually Peabody. It looks like.
Yeah, that's Corey.
I think we'll see Jeff out soon, though, but that is Corey.
And we are expecting the U11 Miss FLAV-R-PAC. We've got a radio guy up the creek from us on our left who is a crew guy from the Miss FLAV-R-PAC, so I'm sure they're wanting to come out and will be out shortly. Meanwhile, Andrew Tate just clicked off our first lap north of 160 miles an hour, 160.7. Andrew Tate, boy, look at that boat, just solid as a rock.
So between the view you have here, Brad, and the drone and the camera angles that I'm watching on the monitor, this is what you've been doing? Because this is fantastic. I love watching the view from here. This is way better than being down in the pits.
This is the world's best kept secret up here on start and finish. Oh, gosh. So Andrew's fourth lap there wasn't quite as quick as his third at 160.7, and he's now pulled his foot as he heads up the backstretch. And Corey Peabody, as we mentioned there, you're getting a look at Corey as he goes down to the bottom end. Corey Peabody in the Beacon Plumbing presents the Tahoe Miss. Tahoe Miss presented by Beacon Plumbing.
Yeah, Corey's just looks like he's gonna see what it takes to get around the race course at a certain amount of time. This is what drivers do to make sure that they're not way off in the start. If he says, hey, at 100 miles an hour, it takes me, 1 minute to get around the race course from this lane, then he has a starting point. Then he can see where he needs to be. And that way, when there's 3 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock in a heat race, he says, hey, wait a second, I'm in trouble. I need to be on that side of the race course. Let me stab the throttle, cut the course, whatever I have to do to put myself in a good position. So he's just gonna see where he needs to be on the race course, and I think he's going to get a good timing run here as he exits turn number 2 right now.
And the other piece to that puzzle is the lanes have already been chosen when they come out. So whether you're not where you want to be at a specific time or whatever, when you get to where you want to be, your lane should be there for you. And you and I were expecting that we were going to see some outstanding starts in Madison a couple of weeks ago, and then the first one we saw was really ragged. And I mean, you tell me, but we were hearing from the drivers, and they were almost saying it was like too easy, and they weren't ready for it. Really.
I think they psyched themselves out a little bit. I would guess that week after there was some quiet meetings back in the office, about arms folded and looking across the desk saying, hey, what happened?
Yeah, what
because
was that all about?
They're all such great starters, but you introduce a new system like this, and it's a lot, and you get in your own head, make stupid mistakes that you haven't made before, and all these guys are absolute professionals, so they'll be dialed in for this weekend. It was some 5 boat heats. I mean, how cool is that going to be coming down this front straightaway?
Absolutely. All right, Corey's now found the pedal, and he's starting to put some speed in the Tahoe Miss, presented by Beacon Plumbing. Off the top end of the race course here. Lap 1 was a nice, cool 111 miles an hour. See what Corey does this time through.
He's on it pretty good right now. He had a really tight exit to turn 2. I mean, he was just hammering on that skid fin. We'll see. It looks like he's going to just try to lay a fast one down here.
Well, they got it at 133. That's not where this boat's going to end up, because it's a quick one. Corey Peabody, you see him there at the bottom of our live view leaderboard. And we do have a hard stop, Dustin. We opened the course at 10 o'clock. I think our first boat we saw came out about 10:02 or 10:03, and it's now 10:25, and we've had a lot of activity here on the water, and I'm sure we're not done, because I'm sure there's boats that have been out. You mentioned Jeff Bernard that will probably want to come out again. We're still waiting to see the Miss FLAV-R-PAC. But right now it is all Corey Peabody and the Tahoe Miss, presented by Beacon Plumbing.
Yeah, it's a great boat ride, great setup, and you can see that he's working out his setup for the inside lanes. We'll see if he slides out here a little bit and gets a little bit of info, a little data for the outside before he goes back in, because they still have time. If they're fast, they can make a change, get back out here, and run the boat again before that hard stop you just spoke about.
Yeah, he'll be a lot happier with that one at a $155. 155.126 for Corey. Looks good up the backstretch.
And for the fans that were here during the testing sessions, you noticed that the strong boats were really set up for acceleration. And we talked about how they were, getting off the throttle early. They accelerated like crazy. I can tell they have their top end setups in right now, and they are set up for this Tri-Cities race course. So it's going to be a whole different story this weekend.
Nice tight line for Corey Peabody off the top end of the race course. Hot lap so far, a $155. Has he got a quicker one in him? And he pulls his foot. Just a little bit slower, 154.7, but I think he'll be happy with that for the first time out.
Yeah, they got some great data here moving forward for the weekend. The boat ride itself looked great. They're just going to start, making some small changes and get the speed up there where he's comfortable, and that thing will be a rocket ship here shortly.
And Corey's going to play around here on the race course, probably get some timing marks, as you were talking about. And timing marks are not just from the top of the race course down to the start-finish line. It's from point A to point B, however you want to define it, how long it takes you to get one full lap at a certain speed, et cetera, et cetera. That's what Corey's doing. And right now, Dustin Eccles, we want to take this opportunity to welcome the fans on the shoreline here in the Tri-Cities on the public address system. You are listening to Brad Luce and Dustin Eccles on the H1 Unlimited YouTube network. And we're going to have Danny Rogers down in the pit area later on talking to our drivers. But hey, we're on the PA, and fans, I can hear a little bit of an echo in my ear, so I know we're out there. Welcome to H1 Unlimited's coverage as Corey comes flying across start-finish line, had the boat up out of the water, walking it, and that was clearly just a timing run.
Absolutely.
The whole thing.
You could tell that he was in lane 4 right there, so he was, preparing for the races this weekend. He says, I'm not going to be on the inside every time, so I plan on winning some heat races. I'm going to be on the outside, and that's great to use this time wisely, get some timing marks. And fans, what we're talking about as far as timing marks, the clock counts backwards from 5 minutes down to 0, and ideally, if you can hit that start-finish line at close to 180 miles an hour, after it hits 0 by a millisecond, you're going to have a perfect start, and you're going to lead everybody into turn 1. What a great way to start the race. So they're using all this time right now to figure out how long that takes them and what they need to do to make that happen.
While we have a little bit of a break here on the water, I want to take this opportunity to discuss a particular aspect of our new race format, because I think there is some confusion perhaps on one aspect of it. And again, we have another boat coming out almost immediately, and you've got better colors, but I think that's got 11 written all over it.
It's nice and bright yellow FLAV-R-PAC colors.
So we'll get to my interesting point that I want to talk about, as Jamie Nilsen in the U11, the Miss FLAV-R-PAC, is away from the dock up the backstretch, and you talked about it earlier when we first came on, Dustin. These guys, especially right out of the box in their first heat, yeah, Jamie jumped the clock, but he ran really well in that heat. He showed some speed, and they just had some trouble later on in the weekend. They're looking to rebound here in the Tri-Cities with FLAV-R-PAC's corporate offices just right across the river. If you could drive a wedge far enough, you'd hit them.
You're better at driving than I am, but yeah, Jamie, the boat ride in Madison looked better than I think I've ever seen it, and he looked comfortable. He was hanging it. He was flying it like an outboard, like he is so good at doing. And the other really great thing that happened to this team here a week or so ago, they found one of their best propellers out here, and the propeller was lost and on the bottom of the river, and some divers found it. So not sure if they're running it this weekend, but I know Scott and Shannon were very, very excited that that thing was found.
Well, you are not the only guy who's got insight as to that propeller, that story, or what might be going on in the pit area. I got news for you. That's the propeller that is on the boat right now. I got that from boat owner Shannon Rady this morning.
How cool is that?
Don't forget to talk about the prop, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, I've actually personally went out here looking for a propeller that we lost because it was that good of a propeller. We were out here in 30-degree weather all day. We never found it. So
man.
The fact that these divers found this propeller and got them back to Scott and Shannon, I can't say enough about them.
Boy, look at that nice wall of water off that left side skid fin on the trailing edge of that left side sponsor. Jamie Nilsen, U11, Miss FLAV-R-PAC.
That looks like a perfect boat ride to me, Brad. Look at him hanging it. It's just like he does in his outboards.
And he does love his outboards.
That's I can't wait to see his speed here. 154 out of the box. I think it's going to keep getting faster. This is impressive for the 11 team, the FLAV-R-PAC.
Really, really is impressive. I am happy for them. There is no team. They may not be the quickest. They may not win every other weekend, but there's nobody that works any harder than these guys. Scott and Shannon and that entire crew. And Scott knows his way around a race boat.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's helped me out and all these other teams out more times than I can count, and it's just great to see him have some success here. This thing, look at it in the corners, how smooth his turn spray is. He's not making any adjustments to the steering wheel. He's carrying boat speed all the way through, and look at it accelerate.
I'm telling you what, Jamie Nilsen is rolling. This is really good. Jamie Nilsen. Got some signage on board with them for the Ronald McDonald House in Western Washington and Alaska. I want to make sure we mention that. The Miss FLAV-R-PAC, 154.7. Did he jump it up a bit? How about a 157.8? 157.8 miles an hour. Jamie Nilsen, and somewhere beyond that point down there toward the pit area, Shannon Rainey's got a big smile on her face.
You know, I think you and I are both smiling too, because like you said, this team works so hard for, you know, every mile an hour, and to just come out here right out of the box and be this fast. I mean, how cool is that? What a great way to start the weekend.
What a great shot for those of you watching on the live stream on YouTube from the drone as Jamie goes underneath you. Now comes off the top end of the race course. Jamie Nilsen driving the U11 to Miss FLAV-R-PAC. And he pulls his foot just as he got across. We'll see what kind of a speed he had. But I think they got to be happy with that.
Yeah, very happy. And the boat setup we're seeing right now is very raceable in rough water. You watch how light it is on its feet. It's not reactive. You don't see it pounding the sponsons and bouncing up. It's nice and smooth, level. Jamie's got great control over it. And this is a boat he can go race. It's not just fast in qualifying, but it's raceable.
And a little bit quicker, almost a $158. So, yeah, they've got to be happy with that. And for our fans along the shoreline there, and watching on the live stream on YouTube, you may have seen Jamie after he crossed the start-finish line. He went down and he turned short. He didn't go all the way down to the bottom end of the race course. He turned on the shorter GP course, and it was made very clear by Jonathan Abbott, our chief referee this morning, that the only place you can cut this race course this weekend is on the GP course, as Jamie Nilsen just did. And clearly the thinking and the reasoning behind that is we're not fighting for lanes. So you know your lane when you leave the pit area, so only cut the race course if you need to. On the GP course, that's what Jamie did. And this time he goes all the way down, and I think he's going to head home to a pretty happy owner and crew.
And I could be wrong on this, Brad, but the second to last buoy in the turn down there in turn 2 looks like it's slightly out of whack when I saw the overhead from our great drone footage. So Jamie made a little correction there. I'm sure it's nothing crazy, but that might have affected his lap time a little bit. A 157.9 is a fantastic time, but if he wasn't making adjustments and having to look at a different buoy, then that might have actually bumped him up a few miles an hour.
I think we're going to have some of our Grand Prix boats that are going to come out. But before they do get out here, I want to go back to what I was going to talk about with our new race format, because one of the very interesting aspects of this new format is there's almost a clause that was added that when people read it, they went, oh. And that being the boat with the most points going into the final heat gets first lane choice. And so they can have that first lane choice, whatever lane they want for the final heat, but they can only choose lane 1 and lane 2 once during the season. You only get one shot. But that is if the little part of that sentence that's critical is the top point getter on the weekend. So when we were in Madison, the top point getter going into the final heat was Andrew Tate in the U1, the BWR Racing. He took lane 2. Jimmy Shane in the 27 took lane 1. And I think the misconception is that Jimmy can no longer choose lane 1 in the final. Yes, he can, because he was not the top point getter going into the final. So if Jimmy has a shot, you were talking about lane 1 being the place to be. If Jimmy's got more points than anybody going into the final, he can choose lane 1 again, and that will be the only time he can do it. So kind of just a little bit of maybe a misconception out there. We'll walk through it all weekend long, but we've got a lot to do before we get there.
Absolutely, yeah. There's so much strategy that goes into all this stuff right now, and with the old format, everyone had their own strategy worked out. But we saw in Madison that this is a blank slate. When the teams thought they had it figured out, Then you get into the weekend and something would change, and they'd say, "Wow, we need to do that differently. You know, we need to make a change here." So it's great to, you know, for us to stand up here and say, "That's not how I would have done it." But these are the smartest people in the business down here, making great decisions and just trying to outsmart each other. It's fun to watch, sit back and watch.
I think I warned you before we got you onto this broadcast at the test session in Madison that when I start explaining something, my hands are always moving. You got to give me a lot of room here, Dustin, when I start explaining things. But that was fun. We've got still 23 minutes. We've got GPs in the water. You're looking at it there with
the freak. The freak just left.
The freak. That'll be Kevin Ekert, the boat whose profile I really, really like.
And now something with the Grand Prix boats that you don't see with the Unlimiteds. These are automotive-powered, supercharged hydroplanes. They need to get their oil up to temperature. So you're not going to see anyone come out of the pits and just put the hammer down and go blast around the race course. They're gonna go out there and just get everything up to temperature, nice and slow. You don't start your car up in the morning and put it to the red line. You got to get a little bit of temperature in it. So that's what these guys are going to be doing right now. They're on a smaller course also, Brad. They're going to be going around the green buoys in the corners. So smaller course is going to be right out in front of us. Great view, and they're loud. You can definitely hear them.
It's also louder, yeah. I was going to say, I can barely hear you. And we've got 3 boats, 3 or 4. We got 3 boats out on the water already.
I think we have the Miss Runne on the back straightaway just entering the race course, and we have one of the Cool Cats, not sure which one yet, just getting onto the course also.
Yeah, so that's going to be Austin Ekert in the GP17 Miss Runne up the backstretch. Kevin Ekert coming by right there. You're looking at that profile I like on that GP10.
It almost looks like a bee stinger out the back. You can definitely tell the profile. It looks pretty intimidating.
And fans like the noise.
They do. You can always tell when they're on the water.
Yep, fans like the noise. So if you like the noise, this is for you.
468 cubic inch supercharged, alcohol injected, big block engines. I mean, you can relate to them, and they're fast, and like you say, they're loud. They're pretty cool.
What's it like having that bad boy right behind your shoulders? Because you've been there.
You know, I used to drive the GP17, and I absolutely loved it. When you compare the 2 boats, these are like sports cars. They accelerate like crazy when you get on the throttle, and they're still going crazy fast, but they're light. You know, they don't weigh that much. They're 2,800 pounds, and they are really exciting. And you can definitely feel the engine right behind your head.
And the colorblind guy thinks you got Harnack on the water coming up the backstretch there. That bright yellow boat, we got a couple of them, but one's real low profile, the other is not. I think that's Josh in the 88.
He's also got the taller uprights, so his is a little, a little more distinguishable. The uprights are taller, and he also has the red trim along the bottom. Oh, he is on it now on the GP17. Good to see Awesome Austin back in the boat for this weekend. Wow.
You're looking at Kevin Ekert in the boat they call the Freak. Fans along the shoreline, we could put 3 H1 unlimited hydroplanes on the water during testing at a time. We can run 4 of our Grand Prix boats. That's Josh Harnack in the 88 coming across start-finish line, a beautiful yellow boat trimmed in orange.
There. They're kind of spread out all over the race course right now. They're all doing some different timing runs. I believe that's John Shaw. It's the more purple of the Cool Cat boats. Slightly different profile. It's a Henderson.
And that is, the colorblind guy's going to tell you, you got to look for that turquoise cowling on Brent's.
Yeah. You can lean on me a little bit, but my eyes aren't great either. It's great to see Josh Harnack out here. The GP88, very fast boat. As he exits turn number 2 right now, he's going to get a good timing run down the front straightaway. Some big Ed Treehee power in that thing, and I saw Ed here this morning, so we'll have it tuned up just right.
That's just a good-looking race boat. I like that one with the Lulu's Craft Bar and Kitchen sponsorship on board. Talking to the team this morning, they've been enjoying meals over there every night. Yeah, that's going to be John in the GP 135. And those who are watching on the live stream at home, we got the cameras zoomed in there, and you can see that one, that's right up our alley there, Dustin. They zoom in, we finally get to see what it is, and he's going to head back to the pit area.
You know what I was most impressed with, Brad, the GP17, the Miss Runne, they struggled a little bit back east, and they didn't show the boat's true potential, but right there, I was blown away. That looked like the GP17 of years ago that is so fast and so capable. And the other great thing is they all made it right back, as far as I can see, they all made it back to the pits that were out running, and they all sounded great. So that's a great start.
It is a good start. We got another one coming out on the water now.
I think that's the 35.
And this is Brandon Kennedy. And this one is also a rocket.
It's a fast field this weekend. I mean, you got some of the best out here, and a different size race course than some of the East Coast guys are used to running. It'll be a nice level playing field, and it's going to be great for the fans.
So suddenly, Brandon's going to find he's got the race course to himself. We had 4 boats out here at one time. All 4 went back to the pit area. Now it's all up to Mr. Kennedy. TM Special.
They had a very strong running back in Valleyfield a couple of weeks ago, and this boat is always a contender to win. It doesn't matter, where he starts. It's just so fast, and he made up a lot of ground in the final. Wasn't able to pull out the win, but very, very impressive, and it's great to see him out here in Washington State this weekend. That's a lot of traveling and a lot of hard work from the team to get the boat turned around and back out here. And Brandon, you can bet that he's going to put it in a great position and showcase this team in all their hard work. It's so fast, and it's just great to watch.
Yeah, and you mentioned he didn't get the win back in Valleyfield, but he has won there 3 times before, in 2013, 2015, 2018, and heading into the past Madison regatta, he'd won 3 of those in a row. So when he gets in this boat, he knows how to make it go and how to put it out front, and which is a big part of the reason he got offered the seat in the H1 Unlimited Miss Madison.
Yeah, he gives great feedback as a driver. He can come back in and let him know what changes they need to make. That thing is nice and light off the corners. Accelerating the whole way down. They got some big gears in that thing. Not on the rev limiter yet. He's flat out moving. They're going about 160 at the end of the chutes here.
Got to be a big body of water to these guys.
That big 26-foot boat feels awful small when you're going that fast.
Boy, look at him go. He is flying.
Wow. Very impressive. You hear that pop, that little bit of a backfire. That's the rev limiter of these engines kicking in. The team will set the max amount of RPMs they want the engine to run, and it'll start cutting out cylinders at that point. And that's just perfect. You want it to happen right before you start setting up for the corner. It's just absolutely perfect. Hear Brandon pedal it just a little bit. The boat was out of shape at the start-finish line, and he corrected it, got off the throttle for a second, said, hey, settle down. We got a lot of straightaway left ahead of us. So just a smart driver. And this thing, a lot of the boats, when they come out, they're not looking as fast as they're going to be, and they're going to make a lot of changes and stuff. So far, I'm blown away at how every Grand Prix that came out onto the race course was bad fast out of the box. So this is going to be pretty exciting.
It bodes well for a very good weekend of hydroplane racing. Looking at the clock on our H1 Unlimited live stream, we're seeing 10:46 on the clock. And Dustin, we do have a hard stop coming up at the top of the hour because our air show will take over and we'll have planes in the air. And that is a hard stop at 11 o'clock. So we've got 14 more minutes. If somebody were to want to come back out, maybe make a second run on the Unlimited side, or maybe another GP to come out.
And we haven't seen Chris Grant on the race course yet. We haven't seen our buddy Brent Hall yet. And we haven't seen Greg Hopp in the GP15. So I think from the aerial earlier, I saw a couple more boats on the dock, but maybe we'll check in here in a second and see. You'd think that they'd want to be on the water and just use every bit of this time to try to get a little bit of data.
Yeah, I thought I saw Greg Hopp's boat there laying in the water, but that may have been Harnack with the, oh, here we go.
That looks like an E350, and by the silhouette, I think that's Jason Schrock.
And we got 2 boats coming away from the dock. So we figured this would be a busy test session, and it is proving to be such. We've only had about, half a minute where we didn't have something going on the water.
So these are smaller boats. These are small block Chevrolets, 2-barrel carburetor, and they're a semi-stock class. You can run some modifications, but they're very limited, and they're very competitive. It's almost like a NASCAR style class. They run about 120 miles an hour in the chutes. They're a lot smaller. They're about 1,300 pounds, and this is a big race course for them. This is as big a race course as it gets, 1 2/3 all the way around. Jason Schrock out here coming into turn number 2. This is his first time out this year. He pulled that boat out and says, I want to go win Tri-Cities. So this is pretty important for him. And we're going to see some really, really fast boats out here this weekend in the 350, some of the fastest in the country. And speaking of the fastest, you've got Kip Brown right behind him there in the JJW Silver Cloud Hotels. That boat is so fast. It's silver, lime green, absolute beautiful. And Kip is one heck of a driver. I should say Gold Cup winning Kip Brown is one heck of a driver.
2013 APBA Gold Cup champion back on the Detroit River. I was there that day. Watched Kip take that win in one of the better Gold Cup finals that we ever saw. He and John Zimmerman went deck to deck, and we weren't sure who was going to win that one until finally the checkered flag fell.
You can tell both of these boats are extremely fast. Jason Schrock, he pulled it out because he says, I can win over there. He's got a great boat. It's a good boat on a big race course, and it likes rough water. Jason's a very good driver. And, Kip, he runs the circuit year-round, all season, so he hits all the races, and they have a ton of laps in this thing, and he's always the guy to beat.
Those of you watching on the H1 live stream got a great look at Jason Schrock in the upper corner from the drone, inside of the turn looking out.
And that's a great boat ride there from Kip also, as you just see him come into screen. If you look at it, it's level, and you can see the propeller out of the water. You can see a little bit of the rudder in the water, and that's exactly what you want. You don't want them, too high in the front to where they get too much air under them to slow down. You want it nice and level and loose, and that's a good raceable boat.
And I think those 2 boats, Jason Schrock and Kip Brown, are going to head back toward the Neil F. Lamson pit area. We've still got 10 minutes on the clock. And the way it's been going, Mr. Eccles, if I was a betting man, I'd think we're not done yet.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I wouldn't be surprised if we even see a 2.5 liter come out here just to get some laps in. And we have several different classes here this weekend. Like you said before, over 40 boats in the pit area. I mean, just packed down there. So water time is definitely a premium, and they're going to be using it up all they can all weekend long.
Oh, and by the way, if you happen to be of a certain vintage, like me, and you like boats from yesteryear, we have got 4 primo H1 Unlimited vintage hydroplanes here. We've got the 1980 Griffin-powered Miss Budweiser. We have Bill Muncey's Atlas Van Lines. We've got the 1973 Pay-and-Pack and the 1974 Squire Shop. They will all be out here at various times over the weekend, and I'm assuming they just did something with this course, as we got a speedboat running down the front straightaway here. Our other, no, rescue boats are beginning to move. So I think that is, yep, we got boats moving all over the race course now. So I think the word has, the black flag has been put on the race course. So at that, I believe our test session has come to an end, and that is a perfect example, Mr. Eccles, as I said, if I were a betting man, because were I a betting man again, I would have lost, because I'm taking that to mean there was not another boat in the water and ready to go. Our rescue boats are going to find their way back to the dock, and they will get a much deserved break.
Yeah, you know, I think as busy as our schedule is this weekend, if teams are not ready, they're going to keep going to the next thing in line. So it's just a good example of how these teams are going to have to be ready. When they say, well, give me a few minutes, we have so much action to get through this weekend. We don't have a few minutes. So it's just going to be nonstop, and it's all positive.
It should be very good. So we've got the Over the River Air Show on deck, and coming up next, we are going to step away from our broadcast, the H1. Before we do, we've got Danny Rogers live down in the pit area. I'm not quite sure who she caught up with, but apparently it's Gunnar O'Farrell. So let's turn it down before we go away. Let's kick it over to Danny Rogers in the pit area with the Gun Dog.
First race weekend for you here, Gunnar. You're about to go out and test. What is your main emphasis when you get the boat out on the water?
We're just going to go out, make sure everything we learned at at preseason testing is the same. Just kind of get a baseline for the weekend, maybe work on props while we're here, and then get ready for qualifying this afternoon.
Any major tweaks since testing here about a month ago?
We worked on our motors over the last 2 months, so we're hoping to gain a little advantage there as from what we had.
How do you make sure that you don't get too excited when you get out there?
I don't know. I'm calm now. Be calm out there. I'll get excited tomorrow during the race.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
The guy gets married and suddenly he's calm and collected as he's talking there to our Danny Rogers. So sorry, we didn't know that interview was coming up. Now we'll take an opportunity to tell our fans that we are going to take a break. We're going to step away for the air show. Let me look at the schedule here. I believe our air show is going to run from 11 o'clock, which we are just about to, and then we are going to be off until 1 o'clock, and at 1:15 we're scheduled to have our 2.5 modifieds on the water for one of their heats of racing. But the next couple of hours, the show is going to be over the river instead of on it. You are listening to and watching along the shoreline the 2026 Apollo Columbia Cup from Tri-Cities, Washington. An absolutely beautiful day. Brad Luce, on behalf of Danny Rogers and Dustin Eccles, we will be back after the air show. Don't go away, but enjoy the show in the sky.
H1 Unlimited Hydroplanes.
The world's fastest race boats.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, really flying the boat. It doesn't get any better than that. They are going to be side by side. This is for the checkered flag.